The next session is themed around geospatial technologies supporting national programs. In this session, our esteemed speakers will deliberate on the hows and whys of leveraging geospatial infrastructure and authoritative data for key national development programs. We will be inviting our speakers to the stage one by one, and after the address, the audience is free to ask them any questions. I would also request all speakers to kindly adhere to a speaking time limit of 10 minutes, as we are already running behind schedule. With that, I would like to welcome on stage the first speaker of the session, Shri Rahul Kapoor, Director of the Smart Cities Mission, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Shri Rahul Kapoor has been involved in the program design of various initiatives of the ministry related to innovation, capacity building, standardization, livability, and governance of smart cities. Mr. Kapoor, I request you now to take over the stage.
Is there a presentation? You have a presentation, I think. A very good afternoon, everyone. Since we are running slightly behind schedule, I will start. And of course, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this India Geospatial Leadership Summit 2022. It indeed is a pleasure to be addressing this August gathering. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has been at the forefront of urban transformation. And in fact, if you see how the country has been transforming from primarily being a rural and agrarian economy, and slowly the overall urban population and how it has increased from up to 31% of India living in urban centers by 2011, and what we are expecting is that 40% of the population will be in urban by 2030. With increased urban population also comes different kind of urban challenges, and it of course requires a very strategic kind of an approach to address the same. Yeah, I think the presentation is on. So of course, when you're talking about geospatial data and technology initiatives under the Smart Cities Mission, which is a flagship mission under the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, it probably, you can say that is being used for three key issues. First is, of course, how we plan and how we design. How we plan our cities, how we design the various kind of government programs and initiatives, and how geospatial data and technologies can actually help in that. Second, of course, would be the monitoring of the various programs and the various initiatives that the city is undertaking, and I will talk about some of those in my presentation. And of course, the actual implementation of programs, how in the operations of how the cities are today deploying the technologies and the kind of data that is getting generated, and where GIS plays such a significant role in our cities. But to give you a snapshot of what India is like today. So we have 34% of the population living in cities, more than 4,000 plus cities as per the definition that we have adopted for ourselves. So today there are 4,800 cities approximately. But if you look at the definition of some of the other countries, like if you take China's definition, the number of cities, probably 60% of the population would be in urban. And similarly, if you look at some other definitions that some of the countries have adopted, the range would be between 40 to 65%. So the government of India actually undertook several initiatives in terms of missions, wherein strategic focus was there on the various urban sectoral themes. So for example, you had the Amrit missions, which was focusing on 500 cities, and now you have Amrit 2, which is focusing on the 4,800 urban local bodies. So there was actually a three-tiered approach. What we did was to address the issues of poverty elevation in all the 4,800 plus urban local bodies. There was the Deen-Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihood Mission that was undertaken by the government. Similarly, for the issues of sanitation and solid waste management, there was the Swachh Bharat mission. And then you had the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana to address the issues and challenges of housing. And you had 500 Amrit cities, which was basically looking after water and water management related issues. And finally, the 100 smart cities, the smart cities mission of the government of India, which is very different from these other missions. And how it's different is, first is that it is a multi-sectoral mission. So when we are talking about being comprehensive, it does not look at one particular sector like sanitation. It talks about all the sectors that are there in the urban domain, be it energy, be it water, be it mobility and transportation, be it heritage. So a very community-focused mission. How it's different from others, that here the entire project selection that was initiated when the time the mission was launched, it was very a bottom-up approach, wherein there were several citizen consultations and engagements that took place, and finally arriving at the projects, which were more than 5,000 plus in number, valuing close to 2 lakh 5,000 crores of investments in smart cities. Competitive mode of selection, wherein the spirit of competitive federalism and cooperative federalism, you had 100 cities competing with each other to get selected in this mission. City empowerment, wherein a lot of delegation of financial and functional powers were given to the special purpose vehicle companies that were set up for this purpose. Being multi-sectoral, it was also talking about convergence of not only finances, wherein there was convergence with the funding that was available with the other government schemes from the state government and the central government, but also the convergence of programs. So for example, when you have a plan development and you keep hearing this thing that a road gets built and it gets dug up again, how can you overcome all these challenges and how can you have a more coordinated effort to program implementation? That's what the Smart Cities mission is talking about. When you have a SPV mode of implementation, when you have a multi-sectoral approach, when you're having a comprehensive way of looking at things, a holistic vision and views. And that's why this mission is so different, that it is actually trying to address the three core areas of improving the city livability by focusing on quality of life, by focusing on the economic capacity of the cities. How do you create employments? How do you create opportunities for them? How do you increase the economic size of a city? And of course, the sustainability and resilience of cities in being able to basically meet the sustainability goals, be it in terms of resilience against climate change or natural disasters, or even disasters, or even challenges like the COVID challenge. So looking at that, of course, what you would require is a very strong data ecosystem that would help you understand, that will help you measure where you are in terms of your readiness, in terms of your maturity with regard to achieving these objectives of improving the quality of life, improving the economic ability of a city, or developing the sustainability of a city. So looking at that required a data strategic approach, and that's where the Data Smart Cities strategy was launched by the mission in the 2019. Talking about several other initiatives like the data maturity assessment framework that helps you understand that what is the level of readiness in cities with regard to data. And when we are talking about GIS and when you are talking about newer things like real-time data and artificial intelligence, we have to understand that there's a way in which cities mature, in which organizations mature. You cannot talk about artificial intelligence if you do not have a very robust data ecosystem. You cannot really talk about GIS also if you do not have good quality data available. And that's where how important it is to have a strategic approach to create a robust ecosystem, and the culture of data in cities becomes all the more important. And that's why these various bricks or various pieces that fit in all together and try and create that kind of a ecosystem for cities. And that's what the ministry's drive is, starting with appointment of 100 city data officers in all the 100 smart cities, so that you start talking about data. Getting the right kind of capacities in the terms of right kind of people who understand the world of data, getting the processes in place. So when you're talking about data, what kind of policies do you have to handle data? What kind of policies you have in terms of data security and privacy issues? So that becomes very important, and that's why you have to come out with some kind of a data policy guideline for the cities. How do you create data alliances? Because when you talk about data being in silos, and the true power of data is through collaboration, and that's where you need to build the right kind of relationship and partnerships. And that's why this whole network of data stakeholders from the government and from outside the government, from the industries, from the academy, from the citizenry, and from the various government departments who are custodians or owners of data, coming together on common platforms to help solve the various challenges that cities are facing. I'll be talking about some of these initiatives in a presentation, but just to give you a glimpse of the kind of work that we have been trying to do is basically focusing on all these building blocks that will lead you to that level of maturity wherein you really harness and understand that, okay, if this is the potential of GIS in basically city planning, in city monitoring, or city program operations and implementation, then the building blocks are in place. Just to tell you about some of the key investments, when the Smart Cities mission was launched, a lot of talk happened around integrated command and control centers. A lot of investment was planned, close to more than 15,000 crores of investments. And today we have more than 80 integrated command and control centers in the cities which are operational. Several of them are using GIS technology to better improve their city planning and operations, be it in terms of the COVID situation, wherein these command and control centers became war rooms in your information dissemination, in your communication, in your overall management of the various kind of resources that were available with cities, and even with predictive analytics. So kind of visualizations that helped cities realize the hotspots that they are, the kind of AI technologies that was integrated, and AI-based cameras were being used in some of the cities. So all that kind of work has started to happen just because you started talking about data and technology. And yes, when these integrated command and control centers were launched, I think it started with a very vendor-driven push, and that's how I think ICCC started all across the world, wherein you talked a lot about technology being the catalyst, but technology is actually the enabler. And actually, when all this data got generated, you started thinking about evolution and how does this evolution happen. So you start with static data lying in silos, and then you talk about the IoT sensors and various kind of edge devices that were getting integrated and implemented in cities, and the data being generated from them. And then you evolve and you start talking about GIS visualizations and how they can improve your various operations, be it, let us say, on your property tax. Somebody was talking about that in the previous session, that how do you improve property tax in cities, and some of the smart cities have been able to do that. How they've been able to visualize the kind of locations that are there, integrating it with the various services that urban local bodies or government authorities are providing. So when you're talking about integration of, let us say, electricity users in a city or the water users in a city, and trying to map that or integrate that with the property details that you have, so that your property tax also gets integrated seamlessly, all that would require a very strong GIS base, and that is why it is important to start with that. The National Urban Digital Mission that the ministry is doing right now talks about this kind of a program, a citizen-centric smart governance program. We are trying to do that, how to have a GIS-based property tax system in cities. And we're not talking about 100 smart cities, because now is the time to scale it up. And over the years, we want to do it for all the 4,000 plus urban local bodies that are there in the country. Another use case that we have implemented here, so when we are talking about project monitoring and how this evolution happened, we started with an MIS system for all the 5,000 plus projects that were there. But we needed more real-time data, we needed more up-to-date information, and we could actually, we wanted to visualize what are the projects that are getting implemented, where are they getting implemented, and this is an information which would be very useful to the citizens as well. So we came up with the Geospatial Management Information System for the mission. So we have more than 7,300 plus projects, because out of those 5,000 projects, many of them got added later on, some of them got split up into multiple projects. So today we are monitoring more than 7,000 plus projects in our GMIS, and we can actually see every project, what is the current status, and if a project does not get updated, it goes into the archive, it becomes basically inactive. It becomes an inactive project. So that kind of monitoring is happening from our mission monitoring unit here in the ministry. This information is also accessible to the state governments and also to the city governments. So everybody is able to see the entire country from one single space, thanks to this program. PM Gati Shakti. I am sure all of you are aware of this. I don't need to elaborate much. But when it comes to the urban ministry, we have a very big challenge here. Considering the federated structure that we are in, A lot of this data is with the state governments. It is with the cities, and the central government does not have this data available. And when the PM Gati Shakti talks about integrating 16 ministries, so the challenge is that how do you get urban layers onto the platform? You have railways, and you have ports, and you have shipping, and all the other ministries who have got their data on the national NMP platform. But where does the urban data come from? And that's why, as a ministry, we have begun the discussion and dialogue with the state governments, trying to create the right kind of people and the capacities in the cities and the states to work on this platform, because the kind of benefits it would have with regard to formalizing the processes and peoples and the organizations for creating this data ecosystem under NMP, enhancing the service delivery, and of course, development of sectoral use cases in urban sector with the kind of layers that are happening. So, you are aware of the Amrit mission, wherein several cities have undertaken GIS-based master plans. So you have several of the infrastructure layers, be it the pipelines, be it the road networks, be it the electric networks, all of that being made available on a platform so that when anyone wants to take up a decision, they are aware of what are the corresponding ministries doing. India Urban Observatory is a laboratory which, of course, in partnership with ESRI, AWS, Contella, we set up this lab. So what we are trying to do here is get all the data from the cities, from outside the cities, be it in the government domain or outside the government domain, be it structured data or unstructured data, getting all of that together onto one platform, and then being able to have various kinds of use cases or insights being developed that can go back to the cities. And several GIS use cases have been created on this platform. I'll go very quickly as the time is up. So open data portal with more than 5,000 plus data sets of all 100 cities that have been uploaded here, which can be used by the whole ecosystem of innovators and co-creators. This is very interesting. I'll just touch upon it. It's the assessment and monitoring platform, and we have already launched this in Surat just last week. What it does is it creates basically 700 plus data points for each of the cities. And the second version, we are also talking about getting in geospatial data, and basically the spatial data sets will also be a part of this Amplify 2.0, which we'll be launching very soon. Some of the visualizations that have been created on this Amplify dashboard, just to give you a snapshot of how a mobility dashboard was created, which talked about the kind of investments that have gone into roads, the kind of streetlights that are available in cities. Some of the use cases that have been done by cities with regard to COVID management, and how using geospatial technology, they have been able to visualize what are COVID hotspots, where are the cases that are going up or down. Another case of a COVID war room dashboard at Thane, which just talks about where the cases are going up or down. A heat map that was created by Agra using AI-based, AI-enabled CCTV cameras. And this is just a few snapshots that I'm showing, but if you look at the kind of work that has happened in smart cities, it is really, really tremendous, like be it in improving service delivery through grievance redressal getting mapped onto a GIS-based system, or the work that Vadodara has done with regard to property tax or vector-borne diseases getting mapped in Surat. So with that, I close this presentation. Thank you very much. Right.